Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh episode of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and a quick reminder that tonight at 8 p.m. Central, it is going to be open mic with Mr. Shorty. He has got some barflies lined up for some football talk, and I believe Nomad is going to be on tonight as well. So hopefully you can watch that show, and if you want to participate in that show, then watch the show. You get all the details then. And then also an hour before that, a fresh episode of Science Fliction will roll at 7 p.m. Central. So that's the programming update. Let's bring in the man of the hour, Greg Gabriel. How are you, my friend?
I'm getting by. The last week hasn't been the most fun, but you know,
yeah, you had
life goes on.
You had some work done. You want to share anything with your followers?
Other than I got a 5-inch incision in my gut? No.
Okay. Enough said. But if you need to get up and take care of business at any point, you let us know, all right?
I'm like, there's nothing left to me now.
Yeah, it looks like you've lost about 10 pounds here.
12 pounds in a week.
Wow.
That'll come back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But you're
it takes me off is I can't go to the gym.
Yeah.
It's at least 2 or probably 3 weeks before I can go to the gym, and I'm just gonna wilt away in the meantime.
Well, I doubt that because you've got so much built up strength in you. It's gonna take a lot more than a surgery to mess with Greg Gabriel. And I know I'm not supposed to make you laugh, so I'll stop that. Greg is a trooper, says Mr. Shorty, and Mr. Shorty is the lead host and producer of Open Mic. Make sure you check it out, 8 p.m. Central tonight, right here on the Barroom Network. Greg Gabriel, we are coming off of the NFL Combine, and so we wanted to get your thoughts on that. But before that, let's rewind a little before that, because the defensive tackle from Georgia, a lot of people were thinking about him as a possible player for the Chicago Bears. Jalen Carter was arrested, was issued an arrest warrant, I should say, 2 counts. What are your thoughts about that whole situation?
You know, I made a lot of calls on this and talked to some people I respect. And in all honesty, you get varied opinions. Some people think it won't hurt them much at all. It might, hurt them 3 or 4 slots, but it's not going to knock them down to the bottom half of the first round. Mm-hmm. First of all, there's no felonies involved. It's misdemeanors. They're traffic infractions. Mm-hmm. Okay. Exactly what happened, we don't know. And I don't know if they got any witnesses, and I'm sure we'll find that out. But I talked to one decision maker, and this was yesterday afternoon, and he said one thing to me that, I was thinking, and then he said the same thing. So he and I were on the same page. And last Wednesday, these citations got issued, or warrants got issued. So he immediately, Drew Rosenhaus is his agent. They put him on a private jet, flew back down to Athens, Georgia. He goes in, he gets charged, gets out on bail, and immediately gets on a jet and comes right back to Indy. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of kids wouldn't have the balls to do that and face the music. Yeah. So that tells me a little bit about the kid. And I'm sure Drew had a lot to do with that and saying that, you got to face the music, but he did. Mm-hmm. And from all accounts I've gotten, he did a pretty damn good job. Now, the key is that when he was put into an interview situation with clubs, especially clubs that were interested, he's got to be totally honest because they're going to find out the truth. And if they find out he lied, he's dead in the water. So, and I've been in situations like that. We had a kid, we interviewed a kid at the combine who had an arrest when he was in college. We had the police report and everything. We knew exactly what happened. He didn't know we had that. But so we asked for his version, and his version was a complete 180 from what really happened. And so we just dropped him right there. We took him off the board. So we could tell him that, but he wasn't. He's a good football player, but I think because of that and other issues, he never. He played a couple of years in the league, had a cup of coffee, but this was a guy that had a challenge to be pretty good.
Yeah. It's, trust is so important. This is, players making millions of dollars. And so there's going to be trust from both ends. I think the most disturbing thing for me, Greg, is that he left the scene of an accident. And so you have to wonder, what was going on? Did he panic and flee? But could there have been something to do to help the two people who died, or what's going on?
Well, that you got a valid point with. Was there something that could have been done to help? But to the best of my knowledge, and trust me, I'm not standing up for the guy.
Sure.
He wasn't in the accident. So how could he leave the scene of an accident?
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
I mean, do you understand what I'm saying there?
I do.
He wasn't involved in the collision. I mean, could what he was doing and what they were doing resulted in it? I don't have the answer to that. I'm not because, and none of us do. And I'm not going to throw a hypothetical because to meet a narrative. That's just ridiculous. Let the facts come out. The kid said he feels company's going to be full. There we go. What happened? I lost you for a minute.
We have a bad internet connection. Wi-Fi is acting weird. Sunspots or something like that.
Okay. Sunspots. It's supposed to snow in the next 24 hours.
I don't know. I just pulled that one out of my ass.
Okay. Don't make me laugh.
Okay. So I lost you when you were saying that there's no evidence that there was anything,
Yeah, I mean, there might be. Who knows if there's witnesses? What? No, I mean, that stuff hasn't come out. It will come out. I'm just saying that, to say he left the scene of an accident when he wasn't involved in the accident, meaning his car didn't hit another car or something like that, then did he leave? Did he really leave the scene of an accident? Nor was he charged with that.
Right.
He was charged with reckless driving and racing.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
So, I personally still think he goes in the top 10. But I'm leaving that open to future facts coming out, and teams got 6 more weeks to find out future facts.
Well, we wish everyone luck. Obviously, the two people who passed away, our respects to their loved ones. But the business of football has to continue. So we'll see what exactly transpires over the next few weeks, and we'll stay on top of it here. D. Levine says Jalen Carter can be someone else's headache. I personally think he's overrated. There are some people who think that, Carter is a great player, but takes too many downs off, is not an adherent to the hits principle that is the Chicago Bears credo nowadays.
Well, that may be true, but that's the case with a lot of defensive linemen coming out of college. If we want to speak honestly, I talked to one guy yesterday, and he thought he is the one true player, interior player in this draft that has a chance to be an absolute dominant player. He goes, maybe not an Aaron Donald dominant, but an Ndamukong Suh dominant when Suh was early in his career.
Yeah.
And so We'll wait and see. And the Bears got other options, and part of that we're going to start to find out next week when they can start negotiating deals on Monday. Hell, by Monday night they might have a deal or two struck. We'll find out, because that always happens. Deals get done before they can actually be signed. They can't get signed until Wednesday at 4:00.
Right. Well, let's talk about the possibility of a deal being done before free agency. That seems to be heating up. Could some of that just be some posturing by Ryan Poles because he wants to create a demand for that pick, and so he's throwing that out there? Or do you really think that we could see the announcement of a major trade of that first overall pick before free agency starts next week?
If it happens, it's the first time it's ever happened. And I went back and looked at, because when the Rams traded up to 1, everybody said, wow, this is early. That was April 9th. It was like 3 weeks before the draft. So now you're 6 weeks before. And so could it happen? Yeah. And I get why he might want to do it. It's because then he goes into free agency knowing exactly where he's going to be picking in the draft, and can probably attack free agency maybe a little bit differently than he would not knowing right now. People are going to say, well, the longer he holds out, the better the deal. That's not necessarily true. Because the same thing as I said about what he could be thinking, other teams could be thinking too. Hey, we know we're going to do it. Why don't we do it? And then we can start planning, do our planning accordingly, instead of waiting, and having to see 6 weeks from now what happens. So, I've known Peter King a long time, and both Peter King and Albert Breer both wrote articles about this in Football Morning in America and Monday Morning Quarterback on Monday. They both met with Poles and Flus, for quite a bit of time. And not a doubt in my mind, that was totally by design on Poles' part. But, I've known Peter. Peter and I go back into the mid 80s. Peter was the beat writer for the Giants when I was a young scout for the Giants. And he was a beat writer for Newsday. And so he was there every day, at training camp and stuff. And so I got to know Peter then. And we converse every once in a while, text a lot. But I sent him a text and I said, Peter, after talking to Poles, is it your opinion that he was posturing, trying to up the ante, or do you think he's really got a 24 and a 25 number one in the bag? He said, I think he has it.
Wow. Okay.
So now, does that mean that's the best deal?
Yeah.
And for draft next year, oh yeah, you're going to take those ones all the time. Well, maybe you don't know where those ones are going to end up. They could be high ones, they could be low ones. But don't forget, if that's the case, the deal is probably Carolina. Just looking at how things fall, because that's the team that would probably have to give up that and something to get to number 1. So by dropping from 1 down to 9, what are you giving up in value with your first pick? And
yeah,
you're taking yourself out of some of these elite players. Jalen Carter might fall back in your lap at 9 for all we know. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But people like Tyree Wilson, now he's still, we don't know the results of the medical. But he had from what I understand, it was a 5th metatarsal, which for defensive linemen, offensive linemen generally isn't that severe an injury. My experience, more severe with skill players. So he And there's a bunch of skill players that have no problem with it. It just, it's sometimes you have a problem with it re-breaking and then having to have another screw inserted. But,
Right.
That's not even a 50-50 type situation. But anyway, you got to weigh that. Now, polls on record saying, well, there's like 7 guys we feel are blue chip players.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you get one of the, if you're at 9, can you get one at 7? Well, I guarantee you, maybe only 1 or 2 of those are quarterbacks. So I'm going to say, yeah, because you know what? 4 quarterbacks are going in that area. Or I put it this way, I'm going to be surprised if 4 don't go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And the guy who's getting hot, and I am not a believer that, your stock rises at the combine, never have been. But the guy who's getting hot because he supposedly interviewed well and the workout didn't hurt him was Richardson. And, people are saying, well, this could be Josh Allen. You could have Lamar Jackson, who both had accuracy concerns coming out of college and, turned into Pro Bowl caliber players, take their teams to playoffs. So why can't he repeat that? So that's I think if you don't have the success with Allen and with Lamar Jackson that they've had, be a moot point, but there has been success. So you got something to go back to fall on. Mm-hmm. There's a prototype, so to speak.
Right. And I think also Justin Fields might help Anthony Richardson's cause, because what the Bears did with him as the centerpiece of the run game, with Richardson, you could potentially replicate that, and he's bigger and stronger than Justin Fields and as fast, if not faster. So that could really help propel Anthony Richardson up draft boards. At this point, I think you've said it for months. I know Danny Shimon has said it, that Richardson was going to be a top 10. Do you think that potentially he's moved up to the top 5?
I don't know. Eric Galco, I work with at the East West, he tweeted out this morning he thinks quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3.
Wow. Okay.
So, and that means there's 1 left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Eric's right, that bodes well for the trade market for the Bears. Now, do I think a trade's going to happen? Absolutely. And like we just said earlier, based on my text discussion with Peter, he firmly believes that Poles has got got 2 number ones. He's got a deal with 2 number ones in the bag is one of his deals.
Yeah.
And so, now we just got to wait and put it this way, for him to put that out there and not have it.
Yeah.
And then perhaps getting caught in a lie, that wouldn't be good. I tweeted out yesterday, you might have saw it. And I really honestly believe this because I thought about it, is he's 37 years old. He's only in 2nd year as GM, and his whole freaking legacy is going to be on this trade.
I saw that. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. This is what's going to make or break him. No doubt about it.
Yeah. It could make him a superstar. Mm-hmm. Could make him a chump, depending on, and it's not what he gets back. It's a combination of what he gets back and what he does with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 50 days until the draft, Robert reminds us. Thank you for that. By the way, I posted a video of you describing the traits that the Chicago Bears are looking for in their offensive lineman, athletic offensive lineman. You told us what to look for in the 40, the 10-yard split, and so forth. That tweet got a lot of great reaction and retweets, and it was just an example of how well you know this team, how well you know the game of football. So who at the combine, from the offensive lineman standpoint, really impressed you, maybe fell into a lot of those buckets? I know John Gaines was a guy who was top 5 in all of the testing for offensive linemen.
I got to do more work on him, so I can't comment on him. But just as a group, some of the guys I wrote down, like everybody likes Peter Skoronski from from Northwestern. But, I've been saying going back to August, he's not going to be a tackle in the NFL. He's going to be a guard.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out for sure at the combine, because that's going to be the time he gets his arms measured. His arms came in at 32 and a quarter. And 32 and a quarter doesn't make the cut line.
Yeah. The cut line is 33?
33. And 33 is the minimum. There's 2 tackles in the league right now, starters, that are playing with less than 33-inch arms. So that's out of 64. So, I mean, it tells you what the norm is. You prefer over 34. And, so I think the guy you compare Skoronski with is kid from Notre Dame a few years ago, and who's been a perennial Pro Bowler for the Dallas Cowboys.
Zach Martin.
Zach had 32.5-inch arms, played starting left tackle for 3 years at Notre Dame. 32 and a, very good player at tackle, but he wasn't going to play tackle in the NFL, not with 32.5-inch arms. And he's 6'4", and that's what Peter is, 6'4", and his arms are a quarter inch shorter. Put him on the rack for 24 hours, you might get a 32.5. But, he's pretty athletic. But does that mean he might not go in the top 10? I don't know. That's for different teams. They're going to look at his value and say, hey, I don't care if he's a guard. I mean, Nelson from Notre Dame went at 5 or 6 overall by the Colts, and he was a guard. So why couldn't Skoronski go at a guard at that high? So I think it's really going to get down to the team who's up to bat and they're ready to pick, and they're going to say, hey, this guy's going to be a top level player for us. I don't care if he's a guard or a tackle. I'm taking him.
Okay. So I'm a lot of questions today. So why don't you get through some of your impressive guys, and then we'll butt in with some questions in a few minutes. Okay. Oh no.
Now we're back.
Okay. Man,
I lost everything you said there.
I was just saying we're piling up a bunch of questions. Why don't you go through your overachievers or the people you were impressed with and not impressed with at the combine?
Yeah, well, I preach this all the time. I go, you're expected to do well at the combine. You've spent 6 to 8 weeks at a prep school, performance camp, doing nothing but getting ready for the combine. Okay, you have no excuses if you don't do well. So there is an expectation on there. So there's stuff that you people say that, this guy bumped up 2 rounds because of his great workout. That's nonsense. That doesn't happen. They're supposed to meet expectations, but there's also guys that don't quite meet expectations. You expected a little better workout, and maybe you say that's average, or so really I came out with a few of those, and some of them haven't completed their workout. They'll do it at their pro day, and frankly, I don't blame them. I mean, it's the combine can be very wearing on a guy. It's more stressful and strenuous, between the interviews and the test taking and the medicals and everything else. So, they got a busy 4 or 5 days there when they're down there. But let's talk with a local guy, John Michael Smits, University of Minnesota. I thought his workout was average. I expected a little bit more. Do I think it hurts where he's going? No, I think he's still a solid 2. Okay, but I thought he would be a little bit more athletic than he was. That's all, just for my expectations. Broderick Jones from Georgia, the left tackle, is damn good. Georgia listed him at 6'4". So then the question is he really 6'4", and what's his length going to be? Well, he isn't 6'4", he's 6'5".
How'd that happen?
And he's got 34.5-inch or 34.1/8 arms. He's built for the left tackle spot. Yeah. Okay. And so he ran 4.97. So take him whatever the hell. I mean, he showed what he had to show and did well.
Yeah, I was
Harris
surprised.
Johnson only did the bench and the long jump, and actually the long jump was pretty darn good for a big guy because he weighed 320 pounds and he's like 6'6", and he's got real long arms, like 36-inch arms or something. But he had a 9.2 long jump, did 29 on the bench. Now 29 on the bench with arms that long, that is impressive.
No,
So
kidding.
I think if there's an offensive lineman that the Bears could take, depending on how far down they go, because I know defensive line is the priority, that could be the guy.
Yeah.
And he's played right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he played left tackle only 1 year. And so, and doesn't hurt that he's pretty good friends with QB1.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
I like
Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse measured the way I thought he would, 6'5", 318. He still has to do the agilities and run, but he had a 30.5 vertical, which is, again, you know, excellent. Just watching him do some of the stuff, he moves pretty good. DeJuan Jones only ran the 40, didn't do the other stuff, ran a 5.35, which was actually a little faster. I thought he'd probably run closer to 5.45 or 5.5, but he weighed 374 pounds and he looks stiff running, and he plays stiff. So I'm not saying he's not going to be a high pick because in the right scheme, he could be a pretty darn good player, but it isn't going to be here because he just does not have the athleticism. And speaking of that, as long as I just brought that up, there's all these people know Orlando Brown didn't get tagged.
Right.
Oh, that's going to be the guy the Bears go. No, it's not. He can't play in this scheme. End of discussion. Nobody on the Kansas City, neither of the two tackles were, both free agents, are good fits for this scheme.
So, yeah, we've been getting questions on Orlando Brown, so I'm glad you brought that up. Now, the question is doesn't Kansas City run the similar scheme? And so,
No.
Okay.
No, that's why, and you go back to when Nagy first came in, he hired Harry Heastand to be this offensive line coach. And Harry preaches more or less an outside zone type scheme. And Harry and Nagy weren't on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nagy fired him after 2 years and brings in Juan Castillo. And what does Juan do? Juan goes, brings in the elephants. Now, the history, Juan was Andy Reid's offensive line coach for years and years and years in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a gap offensive line type swing. You're not asked to play out in space like you are in this scheme. So you can get away. Orlando Brown is a really good fit for that scheme, but he's not a good fit for this scheme. So, and I'll go back to, my conversation with Ryan Poles out at the East West, because I asked him about Wiley, the right tackle.
Okay.
And like he said, it wasn't even a second after I got the question out, not a scheme fit. Well, if Wiley's not a scheme fit, Brown sure as hell isn't. Because
Right.
Brown is, go back to Brown's combine,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only the worst combine on record
Oh, my goodness.
by any offensive lineman.
Yes, it was ugly.
Okay, so not saying he's not a great player. He is,
Yes, indeed.
but he's got to play in the right scheme.
Yeah.
And so people say, well, change the scheme. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
He hired Luke Getsy because of the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the thing, like Pep Hamilton interviewed for the job. And Pep told me right after the interview, he goes, he's going to hire Getsy.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, that's what he wants. That's the scheme he's looking for. He found it difficult to defense that scheme.
Yep. You've got to stay committed to the scheme. You can't make exceptions. And Ryan Poles talked about that. You start making well, no, it was you. You had a Twitter comment about, who was it, Parcells? You keep making exceptions. I forgot what the quote is. Do you recall?
You keep making exceptions, you're going to have a team full of exceptions.
Exactly. And he didn't mean exceptional.
Yeah, and so you got to adhere to a philosophy.
Yeah.
And if people say, well, you're supposed to play to the strengths of the player. That's true to an extent, but don't draft a player that can't play what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
You can't put a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, it becomes a mishmash of
Right.
talent there. While we're on the topic of the Kansas City Chiefs free agent, Frank Clark is getting a lot of attention, and Pappas wants to know the scouting report on Frank Clark and John Hargrave. Would they be good?
I don't have one on Frank Clark. How old is Frank now? Like 31?
I think Frank Clark is 30. Yeah, 30 or 31. Yeah.
Okay. I would say that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hargrave, there's one guy that is north of 30, and Hargrave just turned 30 a month ago, right, if that, that I think the Bears could go after, and that's Hargrave. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it, and I admit I'm throwing a dart at the wall here, because I know he wants to be young. Why sign a guy and have to pay him a lot of money when the team you want is still a couple years away, and by that time that guy could be done.
Yeah.
So, but I think Ian Cunningham's report feelings on this guy will have a lot to say with that. He was with Hargrave for a few years in Philly, so he knows the player. So his inside information on the player will know, and that'll determine whether they make an offer. Yeah. And, they're not going to tell us. And let's be frank. Mm-hmm. They've already talking. It wouldn't shock me if they already got deals pretty close to consummated. Mm-hmm. Not supposed to happen, but, don't tell me it doesn't happen, because it does. Mm-hmm. Because what time on Monday does the negotiation window open? Noon?
I think so, yeah.
Well, whatever. Within an hour, you're going to hear deals are done. And you're going to say they got hammered out in the last hour? Mm-hmm. I mean, look how long it took to get Daniel Jones' deal done. And that was just yesterday. Yeah. And they'd been working on it a week.
Yeah. Well, and I was watching NFL Network. They promoted free agency frenzy for Sunday.
Sunday, right?
Yeah. So there's going to be activity being announced there, and this will be.
Well, there won't be any activity announced, because you can't announce that. Then that's blatant tampering. Then but can I call you on my second cell phone and talk, because they might want to check what was going on my real cell phone, and make a deal. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, man. I mean, I remember when we were there, we got hit with something, and I don't remember what it was, and we got fined a little bit. And Jerry goes, "From now on, we're rules guys," and we joke about that. We're rules guys. We don't break rules, but it's. They've already got it lined up. This is the guy. This is number one. This is number two. Number three. And they probably already got figured out. We aren't going to get this guy. We got a good shot at this guy. Mm-hmm. Now, whether the actual deal is done, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, remains to be seen. But I'll tell you, by Monday afternoon, not going to shock me if at least two are done.
Mm. All right. Let me get another couple of questions in here. Mr. Shorty wants to know, is there a particular player that you thought really raised his stock the most at the combine? Somebody, perhaps Richardson, right?
Well, no, I mean, everybody knew he was going to be an athlete. He's an exceptional athlete.
Really is.
The other thing is, I sent a text to DJ, Daniel Jeremiah, because they were, he runs a 4.44, and everybody's blowing that up and using comparisons to guys from other combines. Mm-hmm. So I sent DJ a text. I go, DJ, 2 years ago, Justin Fields ran 4.44. They didn't have a combine. You guys are leaving out the guy who's a better athlete. Personally, I think Justin ran once, if I recall, and then that's it. 4.4, I'm done. And you watch him on the field, he's 4.3.
Mm-hmm.
That is an explosive dude. So, and DJ sent me back a text right away. He goes, "Good point." Now I don't know if they ever brought it up after that. But, to compare one combine to the next, I get it. There is no combine for Justin Fields. There's no combine for everybody in the 21 draft. They didn't have them.
Yeah.
So, those guys, some of those guys could have had freak workouts. Micah Parsons at a pro day had a freak pro day. You don't see it compared when you talk about, and there's a guy I'm going to bring up as a comp to Micah Parsons when we get to the edge players.
Okay. Well, why don't we get there now?
Okay. Well, one other guy on the defensive line I wanted to bring up was Anton Harrison.
Oh, yes.
And his tape at Oklahoma is good. He's only been a left tackle, but he weighed like 318, 319. But it comes out in the morning, people are tweeting out height, weight, arm length, wingspan, and like 31.5-inch arms. And I was like, what the fuck? I mean, that can't be right. Because right away, the air comes out of the balloon then. If that's what his arm length really was, well, it turned out it was 34.1. It was just a misprint. But that's a good player.
Yeah, he's good. He is good. You brought him to my attention weeks ago, and so I've looked at some of his video, and outstanding. All right, you want to talk edge players?
Yeah, we'll talk to a guy. I mean, really had a fan out, and no, one was 6'2", a little over 6'2", 238. Ran a 4.39. Had a. Are we going to have to throw this show out and start all over again?
I don't know what's going on here. This is weird.
Pay your damn bill.
And well, the thing is I see myself fine, but you're the one that's freezing, and then on the other end,
I get this black screen with a circle going in it for where you are and where I am. Yeah.
Well, we could both
like it's rebooting.
Yeah. Okay. See, I'm not seeing that. What I'm seeing is you doing this. So I'm not sure.
I'm seeing you do that too.
Yeah, right. It's weird. Well, let's fight through this.
Okay.
That last player that you mentioned, I didn't get the name. You said he
Nolan
was 6'2".
Smith.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So Nolan Smith, from Georgia. Now I think he only had like 4.5, 5 sacks, but Georgia plays a rotation, so that's going to hurt. And I'm big on production. If you're going to draft a guy to play the edge, you better have some freaking sacks.
Mm-hmm.
So. But then I went back. I go, okay, let's look at a little bit of this. And Micah Parsons. Now, one of the things that I didn't like about Smith was his arm length, 32 and 5/8. Yeah, 32 and 5/8. Again, it's like the tackle. You want at least 33. The common denominator with most, very good pass rushers is long arms. There's always exceptions, and this guy is a rare athlete. Micah Parsons was 6 pounds heavier and an inch shorter arms. But now I got to say this, and because I guarantee if you took him to the combine, they'd be like, he measured 31.5 at Penn State's pro day, which is terrible. But at the combine, they're real strict. I think that's a measurement that can get screwed up so easily, depending on, where you place the end of the tape. And so what scout was doing it? How much experience did he have doing arm length and hand width, etc.? Because you look at the guy and arms dwindled out by his side. You know, he looks like a long arm guy, but yet at the Penn State Pro Day, he had 31.5-inch arms. This guy had 32 5/8. So he's got an inch longer arms, but he's so fast and so explosive. You got to figure he can get bigger. So I think he outperformed. You know, I don't think anybody expected him to run, 4.39.
That's amazing.
So that's explosive. Anderson was pretty much what I expected. 4.60. He only ran once, 4.60. He was 6'3" and 7/8, so he's 6'4", 253 pounds. He's got almost 34-inch arms. He's fine. But he'll do all the rest at the Alabama Pro Day in another 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks. Keon White, he only did the vertical and the long jump, 31 vertical, which is excellent, 9.9 long jump, excellent, and he benched 30 reps. He's also 6'5", 285. For me and this team, he's a 3 technique and might be a great 3 technique.
Yeah. Danny Shimon said the same thing in his Barroom Draft exclusive.
Yeah, and I said that, I think, when we were doing the edge players, because when I first saw him, I said, this guy's a 3. And I got a little experience on this because we drafted Henry Melton, who was a defensive end, and we moved into the 3.
Right.
And, so you're looking for the traits to play the position. It's not necessarily a position they played in college. Do they have the ability to play the position that you want them to play? And I think Keon White can be a heck of a 3. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you were talking about arm measurements, and I don't want to lose this question. We've talked about how those measurements are taken, but this is an interesting point by Mike Ibsen. He says, do you take the measurements to the fingertips or to the palms? He's wondering because he says when you're punching, your fingers are irrelevant. So why not take it to the palm or to the wrist or to?
Because then you're getting subjective.
Okay.
So you're going like this, right? Well, where's the actual bend? Is it here? Is it here? You know how much that is? That's 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you put your arm out like this, now I know you can't see the end of my arm. You're going to the tip of your middle finger. Okay. That ain't changing.
Yeah.
The important part is where you start over here, and it's supposed to be at the AC joint. If they skip that, then a guy can end up being shorter, have shorter arms than, and that's what I think happened with Micah Parsons. I think they did a poor job measuring his arms.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to clear that up because I thought he made a good point, but you make an even better one. It is subjective if you pick an area as opposed to the actual end of a finger. Good stuff. All right. Please continue with your evaluations.
Well, just to go back on that, when they do the wingspan, players put their arms out like this, and it's fingertip to middle finger to middle finger.
Right. Right.
Okay. So, and they get the total wingspan, and you want the wingspan to be longer than the guy is tall.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yes. So you gotta, and some of it has to do with balance, but like if you get a guy who's 6'4", so that's 76 inches, and he's got a 78-inch wingspan, he's in good shape.
A quick question just came in here. For wide receivers, does it matter? Zay Flowers has 29-inch arms. Is that a concern?
Not. He's 5'9" too. No.
Yeah.
It's more of a concern if he was a corner.
Okay. So just run those routes and catch that ball. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. A guy, he only measured. I don't know if he was. I think he did drills, but he didn't do the measurable stuff. Felix Anodike Uzoma, is that how you say his name, from Kansas State?
Yes.
But he was, I think, came in a little bit bigger than anticipated. He was 6'3", 255. I think he's a ferocious pass rusher. And I really liked him when we talked about him for our premium shows. And, now, the draftnik world is catching up, and now you're seeing him in the bottom of the first round. Just took him a little while to catch on. Will McDonald still has to work out, but he did jump real good. I think did I get 39 foot? No, I think it's a 34-inch vertical. Might be 39. I can't read my own writing. But he had a 10-foot long jump, or 11-foot long jump, excuse me, at 6'4", 239. He's very, very explosive. Obviously got to get bigger. He's a guy that really in the Iowa State defense, he was playing a 5 technique at 235 to 240 pounds. I'll be interested to see what he runs. But when you jump like that, generally speaking, guys who jump really well, run really fast. There's one guy so far I found, it's in the corner group, that had great time, and then his jumps didn't measure up to his time.
Mm-hmm.
But usually they go hand in hand. Let's see. And Isaiah Foskey, I think, outperformed what I anticipated. He ran really well, worked out really well. So I think that he put it this way, it didn't hurt. The combine didn't hurt him. It probably helped him a little bit because he's, for 260 something pounds, he's very, very athletic. Okay. Defensive tackles. How about the star of the show? Our guy from Northwestern.
Man, I almost had it. I've been rehearsing the pronunciation of his name. I'm not going to attempt it now because the next time I say the name, I want to nail it.
Hey, Boro, he's going to have to tell me.
Double A.
I want to find out when the Northwestern Pro Day is. It's probably next week or something. I might want to watch that. But I mean, the only thing he doesn't have is great height. But you're 6'0", 1'6". He's 282. He's 285 at the Senior Bowl. 4'9", 37.5-inch vertical, 10.5 long jump. That's an explosive dude now.
That's early second round.
Oh, yeah. Easy. And you know what? The 3-4 teams aren't going to like him as much. Shit, he could go higher than that. The guy's a hell of a player.
He really is.
But he really, they had him playing outside there. He's not an outside guy when you look at his build. But then when he worked out, he said, well, shoot, why isn't he? With that kind of speed.
Yeah. I love watching him play. And, he brings up an interesting question. I think, you just mentioned he played at outside at Northwestern. Now, clearly, he's going to be a different player in the NFL because they're going to move him into that 3 tech. At least most teams will probably who run that scheme will move him there. So that is all about projection. If you're looking at him as an outside defensive lineman, then maybe he's low second round or third round. But when you start thinking of him as a 3 tech, all of a sudden, holy cow, this guy could even sneak into the first round, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're looking at the traits to play the position,
right?
and you don't see what you don't see a lack of effort or a lack of a motor on tape. This guy's a warrior in the games. Now, there was one game that I recall that I watched where he played a lot inside and played really well, and that was the Nebraska game.
Okay.
So it's not like it's going to be totally new to him. And there were situations where they'd get into their sub package, and instead of having him outside, they'd have him inside, rushing the passer. And when I first saw that, I think it was August when I started doing them for Mike. That's when it's grabbed me and go. In fact, I said it on a show. I said, I think I just saw the 3 technique we want. And this is back in August when we were talking about training camp, and I just brought up his name, and that was it. But that's what I'm looking for, guys. And there's one other guy. I'll bring it up right now. Not a doubt in my mind. For the Bears, he's a 3 technique.
Okay.
And I didn't like him at first. One, because he didn't start, but I didn't consider they didn't like him. I wasn't buying in. But then the more I watched, and then you see how he plays. Van Ness from Iowa was another local kid, Bolingbrook. That's a 3. That's a 3 in the making. He's 265, 267, something like that. He'll be 285 in a heartbeat because he's chiseled. And he's explosive, but the way he plays, he doesn't play like an edge guy. He play and his best plays are inside. He just got to get a little bigger when he gets up here. But he plays with reckless abandon. But you say, well, why wasn't he starting at Iowa? And Iowa's got why they have, my opinion, you play the best players, but they got this caste system, and seniors play before. And this guy had 2 more years of eligibility.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He's just scratching the surface.
Yeah, he's an interesting player, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think Brian Bracey actually came in a little lighter and worked out a little better than I anticipated, but I still don't think he can be a 3. He's a 1.
Yeah, he had an excellent workout. Man, he ran really well.
Yeah, he ran like a 4.97 or something like that, and moved around pretty good. But he wasn't, on tape he looked a little chubby. I thought he was going to be 315, 318, and he's lighter than that, and moved pretty good. And so I feel better about him, knowing that that's what's in him. That's the kind of athleticism he has. The guy, to me, I don't know what to think. And I had a text conversation last night and this morning with Brian Baldinger about this guy.
Okay.
Is Kalijah Cansey.
He's a popular man in the chat room. Go ahead.
Well, I know that. But do you know what his arm length was? I know people say, well, he talks about arm length. Well, you know why they take the measurement? Because it's fucking important. If it didn't mean anything, they wouldn't do the measurement.
I love it. Oh, so is that worrisome? The fact that his arms are just slightly over 30 inches?
There we go. Okay, 30 and 5/8 is hard. Now, people want to compare him to Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's arms are 2 and the reason they're because athleticism is similar, but 2 inches is 2 inches. And Brian said, and we weren't arguing. Going back and to be honest, that's why I started looking up, trying to find a comp, and that's where I found the 31.5-inch arms on Micah Parsons. Was because usually great pass rushers got length to them, and Brian was saying his hands are so quick and so strong that I think he'll be able to overcome it. But now I go back to when you talk to Flus or you talk to Poles, and they're looking for speed and length, strength, and length. Well, he's got the speed, he's got the strength. Where's the length? And so to me, he's a wild card. And there's going to be some teams that just with arms that short, they're just not going to touch him. I don't know where, does he go where he should go? His play says he should go high, but I can't find a starter, and I got to look harder, in the league, an interior defensive lineman in the league that has arm length under 31 inches.
Yeah, it's amazing. Somebody asked how long Tommy Harris's arm length was, and I did a quick
32
check.
and a half.
Look at that. Even better than what I found online. 32 and a half.
No, yeah, we 32 and a half. And Tommy ran 4.68.
Whew. Oh, man. That is outstanding. All right. Are you ready for some questions here before we get you out of here?
No, we got to do more guys here.
All right. I love the attitude. This guy is a fighter. Looking through.
Corner.
Yes.
As a group, athletically, really good. Just to have the raw skills. Okay. So, and I think the 2 guys who outperformed what was anticipated both come from the same school. Jacorian Bennett and Deontay Banks from Maryland.
Okay.
And I got a friend of mine that works at Maryland. I called him yesterday. I worked with him in the XFL. He's a former DB coach. He's a former DB himself.
Mm-hmm.
Played in the Canadian League. Wasn't good enough to make it in our league, but he knows his shit. And I called him yesterday, and he said they are the real deal. And you know, with Banks,
Mm-hmm.
it's, you know, he said probably not where he needs to be maturity wise yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's still, and he wasn't saying that as a negative, just as a matter of fact. But this guy, he's 6 foot, 190 plus pounds, ran a 4.3, has over a 40-inch vertical jump, over an 11-foot long jump. He's got 31 3/8-inch arms. What the hell? That's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you don't draw him up any better than that. And then the other guy, and when I'm talking to Smoke yesterday on the phone, he goes, but the other guy's better.
That's right. Jacorian Bennett.
Yeah. And he does. Now, here's the interesting thing. I was going to save this little nugget for later, and I don't know if it means anything or it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who coached these guys 2 years ago?
Oh, no. Somebody from the Bear staff?
John Hoke.
Look at that. The returning champion, John Hoke. I love it.
John Hoke was a DC at Maryland.
Everybody circle those 2 cornerbacks on draft day because one of them could be coming to Chicago.
Now he's got more time with Banks than Bennett, because Bennett was a JC transfer.
Gotcha.
Okay, but yeah, and John is a great one guy I really enjoyed working with John Hoke. I got a ton of respect for him as a position coach. And not only, you know, there's a lot of coaches that aren't great evaluators. He's a great evaluator. Mm-hmm. He knows talent. And he knows what he's looking for. And so, you know, I haven't talked to John about these guys, but I just, you know, you try to connect the dots. Mm-hmm. And he's worked with both of them. He knows them. He's coached them. Now, does that mean the Bears are going to take him? I don't know. I just know that, you know, there's a connection. Mm-hmm. You know, Christian Gonzalez went in being the number 1 corner and came out being the number 1 corner. Mm-hmm. You know, I think he worked out better than anticipated. You know, ran 4.38, I never saw so many 40-inch plus vertical jumps. I wonder what they got to have some new device that they use in these performance schools to train these guys for the vert.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's never been the number of 40-inch jumps like there was this year.
Yeah.
But this guy's 41.5 on the vert, 11.1 on the long jump. Emmanuel Forbes, great workout. And one of the guys I was talking to yesterday, I called him about it because I know he made a school call. He's got great ball skills. He's got height. He's got length. He ran 4.35. He's 6'1", and weighs 166 pounds.
Oh,
you know,
boy.
He's built like this pen. You know, so the question on him is he going to hold up? Mm-hmm. But his ball skills are as good as anybody in this draft.
Wow.
Now, I thought, and we haven't done the corners yet, so we haven't had a chance to converse about him. I thought when I did him, and I was estimating when I did him on tape, 180, 182, knew he was thin. I said he's going to have to get bigger and stronger to hold up against the run in the NFL. And then he comes in at 166. I mean, how many 166-pound corners are there in the league besides none? Mm-hmm. And on top of that, it's not like a 5'11", 166. It's a 6'1", 166. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a skinny dude. So, to me, that's some wild card. Now, I mentioned a little while ago a guy whose jumps didn't match his speed, and that's Kaylee Ringo from Georgia.
Yeah, what's his deal with him?
Ringo was great 6'2", got good weight, ran a 4.36, but he had a 33.5-inch vertical and a decent long jump, not great, 10'2". I mean, you'd think he'd be 37, 38, 39, and 10'6", 10'7", and he came in. So that it's just something that you look at. Does it mean a lot? No, he ran 4.3. That's all that matters. But he's more fast and explosive. That's, I guess, the best way of putting it.
Okay.
Because the jumps show the explosiveness. And the other guy, and I got to do some more tape on DJ Turner. People thought he is going to be strictly a slot corner. I think he's shown he can play. He's big enough to play outside or inside, and he ran a 4.26. And another guy, 38.5 vertical, 10 foot, what was it? 10'11" long jump. I mean, these incredible workouts for some of these guys.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, very, very impressive.
All right, what else you got? Are you ready for some questions?
Wide receivers.
Oh, we can't miss the wide receivers because I am desperate to hear who you like.
Well, it's not. I mean, the combine doesn't tell you that. I just want to see, guys. Okay, I'll go arrow down a little bit first.
Okay.
Cedric Tillman, who I loved on tape. Played at Tennessee, and he was hurt most of this year. So, but going off of last year's tape, he was a better receiver at Tennessee than Velus Jones. Better pure receiver, not as bad. But he only ran 4.55, which was I thought he was going to be faster than that. So Jordan Addison, first time he runs, he goes 4.55. The second time he's 4.49. I think a lot of people thought he'd be in the low 4.4s or maybe in the high 4.3s because that's the way he plays. Kayjon Boutte, who's got some impressive tape. I'm 72. I can outjump him.
I love it.
Like a 28-inch vertical jump or something like that. Come on, give me a break.
Lord.
Supposed to be talking like this. I'm supposed to be hurting.
That's right.
So,
take it easy.
Those I had arrow down at Ronnie Bell. I expected from Michigan. I expected a better workout from. I thought Ronnie would be in the 4.4s. He was a 4.55, but he had a 38.5-inch vertical jump. So he's got explosiveness to him, and he plays explosive. He tore his ACL the first quarter of the first game, 2021 season, and so missed all of 2021. Came back, had a really strong year for Michigan last year. And his tape from this past year, very impressive. It's, how was the surgery? And that's the medical really is that because, he still might be faster. He plays faster than 4.55, but right now that's the time we got.
Okay.
Jalen Reed, who's a local kid, Michigan State, he didn't jump as good as I like. I think it was 33.5. I got 10-1 in the long jump, but he ran 4.45. He looks more explosive on tape than he showed at the combine workouts. Okay. So that was a little bit of I like the player, just I expected more from a workout standpoint. Now, guys that really perform well, Jalen Hyatt. He's only 176 pounds, but he's got real long arms. He ran a 4.4. Another guy with 11 foot, 43 inches. I mean, my God. Josh Downs. He's small. He's 5'9", 171, but he ran 4.48, 38.5, 10'11". He's a slot guy. Now the Bears are looking, if I'm hearing correctly, another speed guy who gets open, gets separation type of guy. They've got their big guys. And so, some of these guys could fit into that. I don't know exactly what the size requirement is for that other position. So is 5'9.5", 171 too small? I don't know. I can't answer that. They'd have to answer that. And they're not going to tell us their complete profile on the offensive side of the ball. Zay Flowers, Another guy's only 5'9", but he was a lot heavier. He was 10 pounds heavier at the combine than he was at the East-West game 3 weeks before.
Wow.
He gained the 10 that I lost. And he ran 4.42.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's not like he put on fat. He put on good weight.
Yeah.
A.T. Perry, who's always been one of my favorites from Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Some people had him down, didn't think he could run. Well, how about 4.47, 11-foot broad jump, 35-inch vertical jump?
I like that player
Big
a lot.
Outside receiver. That's an X receiver. I mean, you traded for Chase Claypool and you got EQ. I mean, you're probably not going to take this guy unless you feel he can be that guy who can get separation consistently. But the one thing, going back to the East-West, that's one thing he showed every day in practice was his ability to separate, especially on those shorter routes.
Mm-hmm. A.T. Perry, yeah.
Trey Palmer, I think he was a really good player on a really poor team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have a quarterback, so that probably hurt his production at Nebraska. But this guy he's got good size and he runs a 4.33.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you look, these guys, I guess I can, to use a term we used when Jerry and I were working together, some people are trait guys. And I think Poles is a trait guy. I don't know, Ian. And you look at some of their picks last year, and you say, could that be the third round receiver or something? You lost me again there for a minute.
Yeah, you're back now. We're back.
Yeah, and the other one was Marvin Mims, who outperformed what I thought. 5'11", 183, ran a 4.38, 39.5-inch vert, 10.9 long jumps. And not too many of these guys did the shuttles for some reason. They'll probably wait till their pro day, but this guy did. And he ran a 6.9 3-cone, which is excellent. So another predominantly inside, slot type player. But at 5'11", he's got 31 and 5/8-inch arms on a 5'11" frame. You can play him outside. He weighed 183. I mean, he's bigger than Mooney, and Mooney's playing outside.
Right. By the way, thank you to Mr. Shorty for the $5 donation. And he asks, tight end over wide receiver in this draft. And Greg, I got to tell you, this has been a growing topic because there's so many intriguing tight ends in this draft. And so perhaps the thinking is, why not pick up one of these young tight ends? The Sam Laporta from Iowa, if he's available in round 2, how could you?
Round 2, he's got to be available a lot later than that.
Really? Laporta, you think it's around 3?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I figured him as a day 3 guy, but it's the group as a whole is very strong. You could see 3 go in the first round. And I didn't do that group for this exercise here, but the guy who actually disappointed workout wise was the Notre Dame kid.
Mike Mayer.
4.71, but that's what he is. Yeah. I mean, he's a Gronk, but he's got shorter arms. He's not particularly explosive. Where the guys who everybody's looking for, like the kid from Utah, and Washington from Georgia is an athletic freak. I don't have all their numbers in front of me, but as a group, that group was pretty good.
It's amazing.
I can see I can see them using a day 3. You got to prioritize your needs.
Yeah.
See, people they want a grab bag, and you can't play grab bag.
Yeah.
You got to prioritize situations, and part of that equation will be answered next week and going into the following week. Okay, then you're going to know what you have. And Mr. Shorty says Dalton Kincaid, the next great tight end. Well, the only thing I disagree with is that he's not really a tight end. He's a big wide receiver. He's a move tight end. Tight ends to me are like our guy. They're wives. Those are tight ends because they play in tight.
Yeah.
Kincaid plays flexed out. He's a move tight end, but those are the guys that are making money, and those are the guys that get a lot of catches. So I get it. People want somebody like that. Well, you go back and Getsy came from Green Bay, and at Green Bay, did they ever have a great? There's some good guys. Their strength is the wide receivers, and obviously the quarterback. Now San Francisco has got their guy who's and he was a late round guy. But he can run and he's a move guy. So, but I can see him taking a guy on day 3, but I can't see it happen before then. There's just too many other things you got to take care of.
Yeah. And Mr. Shorty asks, Kincaid isn't much of a blocker, is he? Because he's more of that wide receiver type.
Yeah, no, he'll go in and shadow block and get in the way. But is he gonna, what's my term? Knock a drunk off a bar stool? Not going to happen.
Okay. Hair Bear wants to know, and he knows the answer to this, but he wants to ask it because he's wondering, just like I am, if Bijan Robinson is there, and maybe he's it's your second first round pick, and you see him as
No.
Okay. All right, moving on.
When's the high? Go look at where was Poles raised?
Poles was raised
Kansas City, right?
Yeah, and the offensive line is where he was raised.
Okay. No, but I meant, where was his career? Was brought up at Kansas City.
Yes.
Have you ever seen Andy Reid take a running back real high at Kansas City?
Well, yeah, Clyde Edwards
afterthought.
But Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Okay. So you're
right. You're right.
I would not be shocked.
You got me.
I would not be shocked. Let's go to.
I would. I'd be totally shocked.
Okay. With all the needs that this team has, and all of the,
right.
How deep this running back class is.
I'm losing you again, buddy.
Okay. Testing 1 2. Testing. Am I back now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we got it. Yeah. You're going to get a guy who can play.
Exactly.
Late. It's going to happen, and you're going to be happy. Don't force the issue. Take care of what you have to do, and you have to take care of the lines.
Indeed, especially that defensive line.
You already got the best run. You got the best running game in the NFL right now.
Well,
so you're going to draft a running back?
Well, yeah, Montgomery isn't signed, so you need to get
no. He's not, you got to either replace him or bring him back. Personally, I think he's going to be back. I think he's going to find out that there's not that much money out there for him, and he's going to be back. Could I be wrong? Of course I could be wrong. Sure. That's just the way I see it playing out.
Creighton Wolfong asks $1 million question here. Your thoughts on Blake Freeland? This guy tested so well, but
he plays like shit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he's not a fit for
the tape does not athletically is. I'll go back and look at more tape, but there's nothing he does on tape that jumps out at me. That say, put it this way, I just, and it goes back a long time. There's been one BYU offensive lineman that I've liked, and that's John Tate, and we got him as a free agent, later in his career. and I don't know how old this guy is, but most of them are older too,
Mm-hmm.
because they go on a mission. So I have to find out what his age is, but I know he's a great athlete, and that's intriguing. But damn, the tape just, gives you a wet noodle.
Preston Haley wants to know, can Will McDonald put on weight and work in this scheme?
It's a great question. And that's the value of having a guy like Jimmy Arthur running the strength program. And we've talked about this before with the way he, uses the bod pod, and they use the bod pod at the combine. So they've got, his height and weight, but they also got his lean weight, meaning his muscle weight, and his percentage of body fat. And they got a good look at his frame. So they're gonna have detailed notes on every one of these guys. This is what he can be in year 2. This is what he can be. This is what I can have him at year 1. This is where he can be year 2. This is where he can be year 3. Without using performance enhancing drugs to get too big. So I think he can be 250, 252, 250. Maybe not this year, but I think guy's a hell of a player. So I wouldn't want to count him out. And, Micah Parsons was 242 pounds. Now, Micah Parsons is a hybrid player. On first down, he's playing on his feet as a linebacker, but then the rest of the time he's an edge, rushing the passer. So he's a different type of player, but he's not this big monster guy. And you look at the tape with McDonald, he knows how to use his hands. You see him two-gap Big 12 offensive tackles at the line of scrimmage at 238 pounds. He's strong. So, I don't have any problems with him. I wish he was a little bit bigger. And I'd like to know what Jimmy, I know when, Jimmy was the assistant here and Rusty was the head strength guy, the detailed analysis we went through on each of these guys. Because we'd sit down with these guys. We'd spend a couple days sitting down with these guys and saying, okay, this is where this guy can be, yada, yada, yada. So we that's all part of the process. So if Jimmy thinks he can get there, he can get there.
There you go. All right. Another great question coming in here. This Hair Bearer asks about Darius Rush. Can we do a Devin Hester with him, convert him to wide receiver, and make him the next Devin Hester? What do you think about Darius Rush and that incredible speed he has? Oh, Greg's frozen on me. I wonder if I'm live by myself, or maybe Greg is live by himself. Let's see. Greg. Bill should be more. Anybody in the chat room want to tell me if they've seen Greg move, or is he frozen? We're here. Okay, thank you, Mr. Shorty. Let me remove Greg, and let's see if he comes back. Yeah, he just moved himself. I am walking and talking. I was asking him about Darius Rush, and he had a sensational run at the 40. And I'm sure Hair Bear was being a little facetious with that question about turning him into a cornerback. We'll see if hopefully Greg comes back and can address that. In the meantime, I want to make sure that all of you know that open mic at 8 p.m. tonight with Mr. Shorty hosting the festivities. And there are at least, I think, 4 or 5 barflies in attendance. J2K is one of them, and it should be a great show. And if you want to know how to get on open mic, you should really watch the show tonight. And all those details will be supplied then. And an hour before that, 7 p.m. Central, Science Fliction. They've got a show. I forgot what the topic is that they're running through, but Greg is writing. My laptop just restarted, so we got to go. So Greg will not be back. I gotta tip my hat off to Greg Gabriel. He just had surgery a few days ago. And so he was playing hurt today. And he goes, maybe I can give you 45 minutes. Well, he gave me an hour and 15 minutes. What a trooper. This is the kind of guy, while I'm on the couch watching football, eating popcorn and drinking a beer, Greg is out there hustling and getting things done. He's a great friend, and bless his heart, he is such a good guy. CJ Williams said it best. Don Burr is in the chat room, and he still is on this whole Detroit kick. What the hell happened to him when he was a child? And PZ says, hey, thanks, Greg. Heal quickly. I had a bunch of great questions I was going to try to get in. J2K asked it, Greg, how much do you value potential versus production? Keon White and Lucas Van Ness are both raw but have huge ceilings. And he talked about both of those players, J2K, so I'm hoping that he gave you an indication. So Greg is calling me right now. Let's see what he's got. Well, he just went away. I'll call him right back. In any case, so hopefully he did enough to answer your question. And Chris Watts wanted to know top free agent targets for the Bears. We're going to talk about that a lot over the next few days. And I know, that Greg is sometimes a little reluctant to talk about free agents until they're free agents. We'll in Greg's next show, we're going to go into that in detail, and we're hoping to be back here on Monday during free agency frenzy. So with that, I am going to say goodbye. Thank you all for the about 200 people we had in the chat room at one point. And please let people know about what we're doing here at the Barroom Network. We've got tons of great draft coverage. And of course, Danny Shinman and Greg Gabriel are doing detailed scouting reports on all of the players that they think are either a really good fit for the Chicago Bears or stay away. This guy is good, but not a good fit. And they're also looking at some gems and evaluating them as well. So with that, I will say goodbye. And let me play my video here, say goodbye, and ask you again to check out the Barroom Network's primetime activity tonight here on the YouTube, also on Twitter, and also on Facebook. Goodbye, everybody.